So I've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. So now we're in chapter 26, Dharani. That wonderful word, Dharani. And hopefully you've watched previous videos on my entry into Buddhist Reference Volume 2, as well as talking about this in the previous couple of videos on the BDK translation of the Lotus Sutra. Dharani is an incredibly important concept, and we don't talk about it enough. It's not useful from the standpoint of our modern practice so much as it's useful in our modern understanding of why we chant the Daimoku, how the Daimoku is constructed and why, what it represents, right? You hear me all the time saying there's no magic, there's no mysticism in Buddhism. But when you start reading these kooky spells and so forth, and they're called spells in these translations, they're not spells. You go, Sylvain, that looks and sounds a lot like magic, right? And when they quote Nietzsche and is talking about the mystic law, I don't think that that's what he was saying, but translations, yeah. So let's get into Dharani. And you know what? I'm going to read something first. As an example, there's a Dharani. Which one is this? There's a few. Dharani of Bodhisattva Brave Donor, Pradas Anasura, to neutralize evil influences, yeah? And it goes, Jvale Mahajvale Uke Muke Ade Adavati Nrityeya Vati Itini Vitini Chitini Nritayani Nrityakati. Okay, I'll let you stop laughing. Does that not sound like I should be waving a wand with a little star on the end of it? Little star trails after it, you know? It does, I agree. For years I read through that part of the Lotus and I thought, what the hell is going on here? Why wouldn't you? So there's an effort at translation here from the Mahashra Buddhist tradition. Oh, wow, I didn't know anyone else was using that term. Quantum Buddhism Association. I call my school Quantum Buddhism, right? Well, the school is called Threefold Lotus Kwun. But what we study, my study, I have termed Quantum Buddhism. I've never seen that before. Association. I didn't know there was an association. So anyway, they have translated Jvale, that first word, as inflame, and Mahashvale as great inflame. You see right away the pattern here? Uke is bija of proclamation. Muke is bija of proclamation to the masses. Ade, consume. Advatvati, descending flame that consumes. Nritye, dance, or to command to dance. Nitravati, descending like a dance. Anyway, protection, help, protect, to gather, dance, dancing, waist, or at the waist, or swirling fires to protect the emotional aspect or lower astral plane. So, these are invocations meant to call to the mind much larger texts and similes, metaphors, useful to the understanding and, more to the point, the homage, the gratefulness, the respect, the dignity of these teachings in total. That's what a Dharani is. So it starts to become apparent when you read some of these definitions, right? So that when one of these bodhisattvas takes off on one of these incantations, it's not magic. It's a form. Have you ever worked at a corporation and they've asked all the employees to submit, what is it? It's not a mission statement, but it's like a mission statement. It's like it's a motto, you know, like you remember Lightyear, that character in Toy Story, Bud Lightyear. Bud Lightyear. Did I actually just say that? Was that his name? Oh my goodness. Anyway, right? What was it? To the universe and beyond. Right? That was his tagline. Right? And when I worked at Canon Computer Systems, we had to come up with, what are we doing? Every corporation has one of these. They don't always use them all the time, but you hear them, or car manufacturers, Or if you own an Asus computer, laptop, is the pursuit of excellence, or the pursuit of incredible, right? It's catchy, but it elevates you. But that's not Asus. That's a representation of their impetus, their mission, their idea of themselves, right? It's a Dharani. All right. Here's another one. Ate, the verb tower, or to provoke a tower to appear. Think of the whole treasure tower chapter of the Lotus Sutra and the supporting chapters in one word. It's pretty clever. Nate, in bija of physical energy, thus physical tower, like a stupa. Who is this saying this? This is the Dharani of protection from Heavenly King Vaishravana. So I don't want to read all of these to you. I don't want to teach you how to invoke these Dharani. You can do the research on your own. And be careful. Sources make differences, right? The Tibetans were big into this, still are. And they have all sorts of invocations and so forth. Don't get sucked into the rabbit holes of these other traditions. What's important is to understand what's going on here, to demystify it, which is my whole goal in this channel and everything I write and talk about in Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra Buddhism. Boom. Okay? So, in this case, thereupon, rising from his seat with his right shoulder bared, Bodhisattva Medicine King, faced the Buddha with his palms pressed together and spoke to him, saying, O Buddha, if there is any son or daughter of a virtuous family who preserves the Lotus Sutra and recites it, is versed in it, and copies it, how much merit will he or she attain? How will their life change? How much more secure in their bodhisattva path, their Buddha way, their Buddha mind, will they become? Then the Buddha addressed Medicine King, saying, if there is any good son or daughter of a virtuous family who pays homage to the Buddhas, numbering as many as the sands of the 800 myriads of kotas of Nayutas of Ganges rivers, there's that ruler again, what do you think? Will the merit he or she attains be great or not? I mean, you're asking me a question you obviously know the answer to, so what do you think? And of course, Medicine King, who is a Medicine King because he promotes and teaches the Dharma at every opportunity from every pore of his self. He answers, well, it'll be great, Buddha. The Buddha said, well, if any son or daughter of a virtuous family preserves a verse or 4 lines of this sutra, recites it, understands the meaning, or practices what it teaches, his or her merit will be very great. Just 4 lines. Thereupon Bodhisattva Medicine King addressed the Buddha, saying, O Buddha, I will now give the Dharanis to the expounders of the Dharma and protect them. So what's his Dharani for? You and me. He's saying, this is not how you practice Buddhism. What he's saying is, I'm going to make a haiku, a poem, a Dharani that with specific words calls forth the courage, the merit, the depth of understanding that we're talking about here to all those who would endeavor to propagate this teaching. That's what he just said. So when we read this complex Anye, Manye, Mane, Manane, Site, Karite, Same, Samata, so on and so forth, it's not an abracadabra. These words have, unfortunately, not, the writers, the translators of these books found that too difficult to translate. So they just phonetically threw it in here from its Sanskrit form and left it that way. Haven't done us any favors. But if they tried to transliterate each one of these, they could write a whole nother book. I wish somebody would. I've been searching for that. And there may be some books out there. But again, caution. I don't want some book from Nepal on Tibetan impressions of, because there are some of those. No. I want the Dharanis of the Lotus Sutra by somebody who knows the Lotus Sutra. I would like to find that. If I have enough time in my life, I may try to do it myself. But I'm not that degree of a scholar. I may be able to research enough to get something together. And if I do, I'll let you know. Suffice it to say, for our understanding, that this is like the cheerleaders at a football game or a basketball game or a hockey game or whatever you're a fan of soccer, right? It's an inspirational encouragement and good wishes for your success offering, right? That's all this is. Oh Buddha, this mantra, Dharani, it's not a mantra. Mantras are different. Sometimes mantras are Dharanis. But a mantra doesn't have the auspicious nature of capturing a much greater teaching. It can, but that's not its true form. A mantra is kind of a personal dedication, right? A mantra is something we tell ourselves, whereas a Dharani is something we invoke of a higher order of teaching, right? It's more of a funnel, whereas a mantra is more of a little flag we wave, right? I don't know. Think of an analogy there. This Dharani was spoken by Buddhas equal in number to the sands of 62 kotas of Ganges rivers. Anyone who attacks or slanders an expounder of the Dharma also attacks or slanders these Buddhas. Do you see the association? That's what's important about the Dharani, right? You can read the Lotus Sutra all day long, every day, and people may ridicule you, and that would be a very bad cause for them to make, because they're ridiculing you out of ignorance, and they're not just ridiculing the teaching, they're ridiculing your dedication to it, right? And when you chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, that's what you're doing. Same thing, right? Nichiren tells us how many times, if you have the book or you've watched the videos that I've done on many Gosho that Nichiren wrote specifically about the characters Myoho Renge Kyo, that each character, each symbol, each phonetic sound, Myo, Ren, Kyo, each of those embodies, contains within it, its expression, all 64,384 characters of the Lotus Sutra. That's a Dharani. Do you see? It's not just, hey, the Lotus Sutra's cool, we all practice it, it's the best. That's a mantra. Do you see the difference? Oh, gosh. I hope I don't see a video on that. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Let me continue here. Because obviously it's you that's keeping me from continuing. Language. Thereupon the Buddha Shakyamuni praised Bodhisattva, Medicine King, saying, "Splendid, splendid, O Medicine King, out of compassion you have taught this Dharani in order to protect the expounders of the Dharma. It will greatly benefit all sentient beings." Right? The trickle-down effect. Then Bodhisattva Pradhanasura, I forget his everyday name, addressed the Buddha, saying, "O Bhagavat, I will also teach a Dharani in order to protect anyone who recites and preserves the Lotus Sutra. If expounders of the Dharma attain this Dharani, no yaksha rakshasa putana kritya kumbhananda, or hungry ghosts will ever have a chance to strike at their weaknesses, even if they try to do so." In the presence of the Buddha, he taught the Dharani, saying, "Jvale Mahajvale." Oh, we just read that one, didn't we? Anyway, so on and so forth. So his approach to protecting people was just the fact that they were practicing, right? Medicine King was protecting those who were propagating, and Pradhanasura is protecting those who simply are practicing. All of this is to say that if you're practicing correctly the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, you are going to draw from the energy of the universe alignment that by its very nature sloughs off or becomes impenetrable to disruptive distractions, what we talked about yesterday as evil, that word in Buddhism, though it doesn't belong. This is what it describes, right? The impediments to our practice of enlightenment. O Buddha, this mantra, again with the mantra, Dharani, has been spoken by Buddhas equal in number to the sands of the Ganges, and everyone has rejoiced in it. Does he really mean the Gazette went out and all the Buddhas were doing? No, because what are the Buddhas? They are minds. They are sentient conditions of the mind. And so this automatically, with the awakening of Buddha-ness, this alignment, this protection, simply occurs. He's just putting some words to it. Anyone who attacks or slanders an expounder of the Dharma also attacks or slanders these Buddhas. It's like a line in the sand, yeah? Or a big reflector. You're going to come at me for this correct practice? Talk to the hand, the mirror. You're going to cause yourself suffering, not me. Thereupon the Devaraja Vaisravana, a world protector, addressed the Buddha, saying, "O Buddha, I will also teach a Dharani out of pity for sentient beings and in order to protect expounders of the Dharma." He then recited the Dharani, say, "Ate nate vanate alneda nadi kunadi." O Buddha, with this Dharani, I protect the expounders of the Dharma. I will also protect those who hold to this sutra. All heavy cares shall be banished for 100 yohanas around. So this continues. And what happens with all these personages, these different bodhisattva, and in this case, this is not a bodhisattva, this is a Devaraja, right? And then now we're going to have a different Devaraja. And who's next? Oh boy, a bunch. Raksasis, their names were... So all of these different aspects of life, these different mindsets that come to our support for our practice of the Buddha way, they all instantiate their version of protection, of support, right? These are all the mental aspects of our sentient mind in personages, just to identify that we have complex minds that are influenced in many ways, and these are particular spheres of influence. Filters, if you will, of our mind to interpret the 3,000 realms in every single thought moment. Consider that. Hopefully, don't want to skip frames. Got to watch the hand movement. So another, I wish I had better translations of these names. With this Dharani, I will also protect those who hold the Lotus Sutra. Then he recited another one. This Dharani was spoken by 42 codices of Buddhas. In other words, these were all different minds who attained Buddhahood via this protection. And if you slander those people, you're slandering the protection, the Buddhas, the enlightenment that all of them achieved. Why would you do that? Yeah. At that time, there were 10 Raksasis. Their names were Lamba, Vilamba, Kutadanti, Puspadanti, Makatandanti, Kesini, Akala, Maladari, Kunti, and Sarvastvojorahara. I'm sure those names are descriptive in Sanskrit of certain personas. Unfortunately, I don't know if anyone knows that, but I'm sure some do. These 10 Raksasis, together with the Hariti and their children and retinues, came before the Buddha and addressed him in unison, saying, "O Buddha, we also want to protect those who recite, preserve the Lotus Sutra, and rid them of their heavy cares." Heavy cares. That sounds like clinging to the past, doesn't it? Heavy burdens, right? So let's lighten your load so you can fully pursue the Buddha path, yeah? And then he recited a Dharani. Let troubles come upon our heads rather than distress the expounders of the Dharma. So those Raksasis are aspects of life that will contend with what might be burdensome so that our minds can be free to pursue our practice of the Buddha way. Right? It's really, Buddhism is not that difficult. There's just a lot of rhetoric and translations and words in the way, really. But they do help us understand more deeply, right? We get insights into this. So, no yaksas, no rakshasas, no hungry ghosts, no putana, no krita, blah, 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 blah. No fever for 1 day, for 2 days, for 3 days. And they'll help keep you healthy, too. No one in the form of a man, no one in the form of a woman, no one in the form of a boy, no one in the form of a maiden, no one who may appear, even in a dream, in any of these forms shall cause them distress. They then spoke to the Buddha in verse, saying, if anyone does not accept my Dharani, any troubles, and troubles one who expounds the Dharma, his head will split in 7 pieces, just like a branch of the Arjaka tree. Now, we have heard that quoted by Nichiren, right? The head will split in 7 directions or 7 pieces. I'm sure there's a lot of people in incarcerated or in mental institutions that would understand that intimately. Consider the transgression of parricide. of pressing sesame mixed with impurities, of cheating people with scales. Consider the transgressions committed by Devadatta, who divided the Sangha. Those who slander this expounder of the Dharma shall suffer consequences such as these. After having spoken these verses, the Raksasis addressed the Buddha, saying, O Buddha, we also want to protect those who preserve, recite, and practice this sutra and cause them to live at ease, rid them of their weighty cares, and drive out various poisons, distractions, obstacles, The Buddha said to the Raksasi, Splendid, splendid, you protect those who preserve the name of the Lotus Sutra. What's the name of the Lotus Sutra? Myoho Renge Kyo. Can you just hear Nichiren going, see? Your merit is immeasurable. How much more merit is there in protecting those who perfectly preserve and revere the sutra in various ways, such as offering flowers, perfumes, necklaces, fragrant ornaments, scented powders, burning incense, banners, canopies, and music, or by lighting ghee lamps, oil lamps, fragrant oil lamps, lamps of oil made from sumanas, kapaka, varisika, and upala flowers. How much more merit is there in offering such things in hundreds of thousands of ways? O Kunti, you and your retinues should protect the expounders of the Dharma in this way. When this chapter, Dharani, was taught, 68,000 people attained the acceptance of the non-origination of all dharmas. Yeah. I might have to define that, non-origination of all dharmas, because that's pretty complicated. That's it. That's that chapter. Fortunately, it's not exceptionally long. The next chapter, 27, Ancient Accounts of King Subhayuva. Oh my goodness, this is one of the longest names I've ever seen in the translations. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to find out what that actually means. Oh, that's a whole sentence. Okay. So I hope I haven't made the matter any more confusing. Just know that Dharani's it's an invocation of the protections of, when we have read in Gongyo, the protection of the Buddhist gods? That's what that is. These are the forces, if you will, the personages of mental straightforward steadfastness that keep us focused. That's as simple as I can say. So just don't get preoccupied in all these strange word translations. That's all they are, is a commitment. Again, the most important thing in Buddhism, right? A resolve, a commitment, a conviction, determination. It's key. It's key to attaining anything, really, but certainly our Buddha-ness. Thank you for listening. Make use of the links in the description, whether you want to become a patron through Patreon or PayPal, whether you need study materials, ebooks, print books, maybe you need a proper Nichiren inscribed digital copy of the Mandala of Gohonzon. Go to threefoldlotus.com and find instructions on enshrinement, the altar, all manner of questions that we have as we begin and continue our practice. Yeah, I so appreciate your being here, especially if you've gone all the way to the end. It helps immeasurably the mechanisms of YouTube, right? So yeah, like, subscribe, share. It's a great teaching tool. I'm not patting me on the back. I'm just saying, as a resource, there's so much here, right? There's some 1,500 videos, podcasts, free. All those, you saw the course study materials page, all those buttons. You can go there in the middle of the night when you got a question. So it's very accessible. Thank you again. Enjoy your practice, savor it, keep it strong. Take care of your health as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.